How y'all doing? Hello, everyone, friends, new friends, maybe old enemies. Thank you so much for tuning in to Good News. I'm Josh Johnson, and I am so excited to talk to you. I've compiled some stories together that I thought, because they brought me joy, they bring you joy, and I'm really excited to talk to you this week. I'm also excited to see you. I mentioned dropping what city you're in the chat because I'm going on tour. And I'm going to be in a lot of different cities. Some of them that you've mentioned in the chat are also on the list. So I'm coming to you whether you like it or not. And then if you want me to come to you, I can also keep adding things. The year is very young. It's so young, I'm still working out. You know what I mean? I'm still in that phase where I'm like, nah, I'm going to get these shoulders. I'm going to get thick in all the, I've always wanted to be like a bigger guy. There are men in my family that are like built like men, like substantial people. Like you're gonna have to, like when you're walking down the street and you're about to come across one of them, you have to get out of the way. They could try to get out of the way, but they'd have to walk all the way in the street. And you're the one that's gonna have to. Oops, sorry, I'll stop. Let a real man pass. I want to be that size. I always have, and so far I think I'm probably not gonna make it because it will require more height. All I can do now is width. All I can do is get sizably wider. One way or another, fat or muscle, it's coming. But, you know, we're early in the year and I'm still doing my pull-ups, my push-ups, my dips. I'm doing my split squats. Those, I actually have terrible balance, and I found out from doing those because I do tip to whichever side the leg goes out to. Said all that to say that I've probably got 3 more days of working out in me, and then I'll be back to normal. But I hope you're doing well. I hope the start of your year has been good. I actually had my first not great day of the year. I'm going to be talking about it in stand-up. I've also talked about it on the podcast, but I'll talk a little bit about it now. I was in the Minneapolis airport for nearly, maybe it was 16 hours. It felt like a full 24, but a lot of misconnections, and not the fun kind, not the like, hey, I saw you at the grocery store and you had red hair and you seemed into me, but I didn't get your number. Not like that. I'm talking about misconnections, like a gate agent telling you there's no hope. Like looking in your eyes and being like, the flight, okay, I'm I'm gonna sound unfair, but I'm gonna try to balance it out. Gate agents have an incredibly stressful job. They also are their own people, and some of them have very particular personalities. The amount of times I've got to the gate late and the person smiled when they said that boarding was ended, it feels adversarial. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've had plenty of gate agents try to help me, do their best to, hook me up and everything. But every once in a while, you'll get to the gate late and you might miss it by a minute. And they're like, oh, boarding's ended. And I'm like, man, you've been waiting to say that to somebody all day, haven't you? Like that, because then I can't help my face, because that's the most honest. This is the other thing important about flying. The most honesty you're going to get out of a lot of people is when they're traveling. When you're traveling, that's who you really are. I'm not gonna lie. I used to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they just having a bad day or something. But all the emotions come out when you're at TSA, when you're at the gate, when you're delayed. All that stuff comes out for real. And no, it was a rough one. It was really bad. I had to sleep. At the airport. It was me and Nathan McIntosh, another very, very funny comic. You need to check him out. He actually has a great special on YouTube called Money Never Wakes. So definitely check him out whenever you're done with the stream. And we were stuck at that airport together because we had the same itinerary. And we ended up sleeping. We ended up sleeping on the cushions of the benches in the playground. So the airport got a playground, right? So it's desolate, and the floor is everywhere. But we're like, my body can't handle floor, so I just went ahead and we slept on those cushions, and it was like me next to a fake train, and I woke up and my hips popped so loud. I'm not built for hard living. I've really lucked out that I live in this century. Any other time, I wouldn't have lasted. I can honestly say that. So I want to get to the stories real quick because I know that's why you came. I'm starting this one with a couple that inspired me. I honestly want to say this. I want to take a quick second. I guess the whole message and everything that I picked today is at least an attempt in the spirit of do whatever makes you happy. Whatever things that you like doing, please do those things. Life is very short. It can feel long if you're bored, but overall, very short, especially if you're having a good time. And I want you to do whatever brings you joy and makes you happy. Because sometimes the thing that makes you happy, the thing that brings you the most joy, what you want to do with your life, is also maybe the most financially viable thing to do as well. I bring that up because there's a couple who sold everything to live on cruise ships for the rest of their lives. So as soon as I saw the story, comes to us from Sky News, I was like, oh no. Because then this is the other thing with saying for the rest of our lives. That means that we don't know when, we don't know how, and we don't want it to happen. But that means that you plan to pass on one of these ships. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a lot for the staff is all I'm saying. Like if you're specifically like, man, this might be my last cruise, that's a weird vibe to put out there. Luckily, this couple is still young enough where they got plenty of cruises left in them. But to just say that, to just voice that out in the world, it was unsettling for a second. But the Hennessy couple, I love that their last name is Hennessy, by the way. The Hennessy couple sold everything that they owned 3 years ago, including their main business and their home, and say they plan to see out their days sailing around the world, which is dope. Don't get me wrong. This is like a fire idea. It's just the death part that stressed me out. The couple, originally from Florida, sold almost everything they owned 3 years ago, including their main business and their home, and bought a motorhome to travel around the U.S. But then John, 76, got tired of driving, says Melody, 64. And that does make sense. Like sometimes you're like, hey, I think I'm built for this RV life. I think I can live easy, somewhat off the elements, the rest off my RV. And then I think maybe a year. I give myself 2 weeks. But I think for some people, maybe a year in, you're like, this is no joke. This is like bad. Or you get enough flat tires and you're like, I think I want to live at a place that's already flat. Like I want to live in a home that is nothing but a flat tire at the bottom. And it seems like they never looked back. Once they sold everything and decided to travel for the rest of their life, they decided, hey, motorhome wasn't for us. So then, you know what? Cruises, that's where it's at. They say they saw an advert on Facebook for a 274-day cruise with Royal Caribbean. Now, this is not the Royal Caribbean cruise that everybody's talking about on TikTok, okay? This is a different one. I'll get to that one at some point. This is a very different thing that I believe has already come and gone. And then they decided to make a permanent journey of their life at sea. And just the adjustments you have to make, because not only, sure, you're spending money for a nice cabin and you're going to be there for 9 months or however long the cruise is. They seem to be planning their life from month to month, cruise to cruise, right? And then they meet their family and friends at different ports, or their family flies out and then hops on the cruise with them. It honestly sounds like a very dope life. It's just the one drawback that I see that I can't get over is the iron stomach you have to live off of cruise buffet food for the rest of life. You know what I mean? Like cruise buffet food feels like it would shorten your life. There are things that are served on cruises. Just when you read stories about cruises, I mean, I feel like an eighth of the cruises out there are just handing out food poisoning. There was that. I'm pretty sure I would have been like 13 when this happened, but I think there was like it was either a Carnival or a Disney cruise where everybody got food poisoning, and everybody getting food poisoning on a ship is worse than the Titanic. At least the Titanic went down. You know what I mean? Cruise ships don't have that many bathrooms. They're not built for that level of pressure. They had to dock early. And I don't remember where they docked, but that could happen, especially if you've decided to live your life on a cruise ship. But they're doing what makes them happy, which is why I picked the story. And it looks like their family's going to be visiting them plenty. And it looks like, honestly, when you see the pictures without anybody in the room of the cruise ship, I know they take it in the corner of the room to make it look big, but these do look like dope rooms. Especially coming from a New Yorker. I feel like if you live in New York and you have anything less than a 2-bedroom, even if you have that, anything less than a 2-bedroom in New York does feel like the bottom cabin of a cruise ship. So as much as some people may judge this lifestyle, a lot of us in cities are already living it. It's pretty rough. I'm going to move on to the next story. This is, okay, yes, they're doing what they love, but also I am going to point out everything I think is insane about this as I read it. Because this story I will have to read to you in detail to make sure I get my point across of everything that is happening right now. All right, so scientists make VR goggles for mice so they can feel what it's like to be attacked by a bird. Let's start off with the most important thing. We know for a fact, I'm not a scientist, and I know, we all know, the mice didn't ask for this. The mice didn't come to you and be like, hey, you know how humans love horror movies? You know how they love simulating being attacked and chased and run after? I want that in my life because, a mouse's life is already not short enough. Let me see if I can give myself a heart attack. I know for a fact that nobody Dr. Doolittled that into existence. Okay? There is no reason that I can think of to be doing this to these mice right now. These mice were probably just living their life, going about their business and everything. And then science was like, you know what? That's enough. You're about to have a terrible day. All right. This also comes to us from Sky News. Upon noticing the simulated bird of prey, these terrified, bespectacled rodents ran faster on the treadmill used during the test or froze, both of which are real common responses to overhead threats. So far in what I've read right now, you didn't need the study. Do you know what I mean? I could have told you that. I could have told you that, hey, if you put the VR goggles on a mouse and make it look like a bird is coming, they're going to act like a bird is coming. Because they're not going to be like, oh, man, what a great simulated experience. The same way, have you ever watched a person play VR? There's a VR game that's like one of the earliest VR games you can play. And it's like Richie's Plank Experience or Plank Adventure or whatever. And there are whole YouTube compilations of people falling down from standing up because the VR tilted them a little bit. So if that happens to a human, a mouse that doesn't even know it's a mouse is definitely going to fall for whatever you put in front of it. Dubbed miniature rodent stereo illumination VR or immersive, that was a stretch. That was a fight to try to get the acronym immersive. The headgear is made up of 2 lenses and 2 screens split between both eyes to give the rodents an immersive 3D picture. A 3D picture that they will hate. This is not like, you could have easily made this just like big round cheese or like a mousetrap getting stepped on by a human. Like, you could have made this anything they might like and done the same test to see if they feel as stimulated as a real world. But instead, you chose, we gonna Tom and Jerry you. Today you're gonna find out. How dare you just be a mouse minding its own business. So live VR for humans, the mice cannot see, like VR for humans, the mice cannot see the outside world and are made to feel that they're somewhere else. But unlike the headsets we might wear, which wrap around our heads, these perch in front of the mouse's face. The researchers from Northwestern University in Illinois said by simulating a mouse's natural environment, they'd achieve greater understanding of their behavior. You know how else you could simulate their natural environment and learn their behavior? Outside is right there. Outside is outside every time. You know what I mean? You don't need the lenses. You don't need the headgear. You don't need the funding. If you just have them outside and just watch them and run after them, that'll be what they'd like to do. I feel like science is coming full circle now, where not only are they answering questions nobody asked, but they're also doing stuff that's already happening. Like you had to pull the mouse out of nature anyway. I mean, some of them are born in the lab and stuff like that, so they don't know any better. But for the most part, a mouse had to, at some point, come from nature. So then to be like, I wonder what it would do in nature, feels like we're burning money. Until now, such effort had been limited to flat screens that simply surround mice. These screens cannot convey 3D depth, and the mouse can also still see parts of the laboratory peeking through. Study lead Daniel Dombeck said the goggles help them engage with the environment in a more natural way. Once again, you know what's natural? Nature. Another advantage, researchers said, is that they can simulate aerial threats like birds of prey. I want to know what a mouse did to this researcher. I want to know what kind of anti-ratatouille backstory led to these type of studies, because you just put these mice through it. Researchers projected a dark expanding disc into the top of the goggles and the top of the mice's fields of view. Upon noticing the disc, they either ran faster on the treadmill used during the test or froze, both of which are real common overhead threats. Study co-author John Issa said the team would also like to simulate scenarios where the mouse is the predator. That's what I'm talking about. You have a mouse, put the goggles on, and it's just a tiny city. You make that mouse Godzilla. See what he does. That's actually what you should be doing as scientists, is see what would happen if other scientists accidentally made a huge mouse, like a real big mouse, if that mouse would immediately attack and destroy, or if it would just be chilling. That seems like a way better use of the study. We could watch brain activity while it chases a fly, for example. That activity involves a lot of depth perception and estimating distances. Those are things that we can start to capture. Didn't do it first, all right. Overall, the researchers found the brains of goggle-wearing, treadmill-running mice were activated very similar to free animals. What do you know? They also learned more quickly and were better at completing tasks like finding rewards in a simulated maze. Okay. It's a real weird thing to watch a lab mouse be in the Matrix, because it makes you wonder if we're in the Matrix. Matrix comes out. The movie The Matrix comes out in 1999, and it starts a lot of philosophical questions about, like, is this all a simulation? What about our experiences? How are we sure that we're real and everything that's happening is real? And at first you dismiss it because you're like, guys, I know I'm here. But honestly, what's happening to the mice right now, I'm like, maybe that is happening to me. Maybe this is all a simulation. I wouldn't be that upset. Life is pretty good except for being in the Minneapolis airport forever. All right, let's check out the chat real quick. Lego Crafter Studio said, throw a shrew under those things. They're terrifying predators. Yeah, see, get a different animal too. Let a horse feel what it's like to be a duck. Do you know what I mean? Will the horse start swimming? Or make it so a cricket thinks that it's an owl. Crickets can't fly. They can jump, but they can't fly. They can't sustain that height. Let's give some of these insects, some of these animals, some great experiences. Instead, you're just out here being like, what if you died, mouse? Which does feel crazy. Okay. Moving on to our third story. Like I said before, I want everyone watching, everyone listening, to do the things that bring you joy. Cut out a little bit of time to make sure that you are enjoying your life and you don't feel like you're trading your time for money all the time. I know that's easier said than done, but when I saw this story, it warms my heart. Ohio man attempting to play pinball for 63 hours. Now, there's a lot that goes into this. This comes to us from the UPI.com, and 63 hours. First, I had to do the math on how many days that was because I didn't know in my head immediately because I am not great at math. But it is, it's over 2 days. It's not quite 3. And I'm someone who, when I play pinball, I make it about 46 seconds. I lose immediately. And I don't know if it's something with me or if it's something with my approach to the game, but whatever I'm doing is wrong. So the idea that someone is not only going to play for 63 hours, but probably be good enough to enjoy it for the first 2 is mind-blowing to me. That's so, if this dude makes it 63 hours of playing pinball, his thumbs must have abs. That's some crazy finger strength to just be going for 63 hours. I mean, if anything, I would cheat. If I was honest with you, I would just hold the plunger for like 60 hours. Just try to get myself over the hump. An Ohio man is more than 14 hours into his attempt to play pinball for 63 consecutive hours and break a Guinness World Record. I'm going to butcher his name, and I feel bad about it, but I'm going to give it a shot. Jim Foliano, executive director of the nonprofit Ticket to Hope, started playing the Avengers Infinity Quest pinball machine at Pinball Garage in Hamilton at 9 p.m. Thursday, and he's planning to continue playing until noon on Sunday. So I guess we'll see if he made it or not. I'm not seeing a follow-up here. But the record attempt is raising funds for the Joe Nuxhall Miracle League fields and will go towards purchasing an Avengers Infinity Quest pinball machine, the group's new indoor facility, the Hope Center, for them to use, I guess. And I thought that was pretty dope. You managed to mix something that I'm assuming you love. It'd be crazy if you hated pinball. If you absolutely despise pinball, but this is what you have to do to raise money for the kids, even more kudos to you. But you managed to mix something that you love with a cause that's important to you, all to get a world record. It's a perfect trifecta of happiness. I hope I can do something like that one day. I hope someone is like, Josh, we're going to need you to pogo for 2 days, all right, to raise money for these kids. What do they have? We don't know. That's the problem. It's new. Whatever they got is new, and we need you to pogo until they have a new cure for the new thing. I think that, if that happened, I would try. I'm pretty sure I'd make it 20 minutes because nobody talks about this, but pogo is exhausting because you really have to keep yourself going. You really have to like come down to go up. All right. Let's see. We're moving on again. I'm going to check the chat real quick. Yes, that's exactly it. Olivia Harris. Trifecta of happiness is the goal. It's what I want for me, and it's what I want for all of you. Okay? I very much appreciate everyone being in here with me because I don't want to do it alone. Without you here, I would just be talking to the abyss, to a very quiet internet. There's no noise in the room, so if I seem like I'm going crazy at any point, just forgive me. This story is maybe, sometimes they say save the best for last, but sometimes you don't know what the best is right away. So you put it in the middle just to be safe. This comes from Reuters. The escaped kangaroo captured after punching Canadian officer. A kangaroo went full ACAB on a Canadian officer. And look, I'm not in Canada. I don't know what the vibe is in Canada. I'm not sure how they over here feeling about the police and everything. I'm not sure if they have big issues that they're trying to deal with when it comes to reform. But man, if you asked me, a Canadian cop seems, out of all the cops of countries, like they would deserve it the least. And this isn't even a Canadian animal. This is a kangaroo. So this kangaroo is over continents away from where it's supposed to be, just slinging it out with the police. And nobody talks about this, but kangaroos have incredible dexterity. They can use their tail to hit you. They can lean back on their tail to get like a real wind up and then punch you. And they can kick you. They're fight machines, and nobody ever talks about it. Let's see. A kangaroo that escaped its handlers during transport to a new home was captured on Monday east of Toronto after a weekend in the wild, but not before delivering a punch in the face to one of the police officers who brought her run to an end. And look, that's my thing. If the kangaroo out here swinging, it must like where it is. I don't know if it needs a new home. Maybe you're like, hey, this zoo wants to borrow this kangaroo for a little while. Maybe the kangaroo's like, you know what? If one more y'all get close to me, we're throwing hands. And because kangaroos can't talk, they just have to immediately initiate. That would actually be great. Let that mouse think it's a kangaroo. See what it's like to really jump and punch. Because I know mice must want to punch. Videos emerged on social media on Friday of the marsupial who was born in captivity running along roads in Oshawa, a town on Lake Ontario about 37 miles east of Toronto. Officers on patrol spotted the kangaroo at around 3 a.m. on Monday on a rural property in northern Oshawa. And, I guess they approached, and the kangaroo was like, you better back up. You better back up. Ain't nobody playing. I really do this. And then hauled off and punched one of the officers in the face. And look, I've been hit a lot. I don't know if you can believe this, but I've been in a scuffle or two, and all by people. I've been pecked in the face by a bird once, but I've never been punched by a kangaroo. So I mean, honestly, I hope whoever it happened to is okay, because it seems like one of those things where getting punched by a kangaroo seems up there with getting like kicked by a horse. This is like what they do. You're used to, look at that. Look at that. That's just a cuter gorilla. Look how thick. Look at the chest muscles. Like those are proper pecs. I'm trying to look like that when I grow up. That's actually what I was talking about. When I said I was in the gym and I've always wanted to be substantial, I want shoulders like that. I don't even care if I bow up like this. Even if I end up having no traps and just big shoulders and walk around like this, I'll still be such a ripped individual. Nobody will even have the bravery to say anything. Nobody will be like, hey, what's wrong with your shoulders? They'll just be like, hello, sir. Because this gets you sir, by the way. Whoops. This gets you sir. All right? You want to be a sir? You built like this. This is the... Jeez. Like he does. Okay, he doesn't have abs, but it looks like his pouch has muscles. That's wild. That's an animal built for prison. All right, so we're gonna move on to our next story of an infamous British Columbia ferry for sale on Facebook Marketplace. Now, look, I don't use Facebook Marketplace a lot. It feels like a newer version of Craigslist, but it's one of those things where maybe we're letting Facebook get a touch too big. Do you know what I mean? Like if a whole ferry can be bought on Facebook Marketplace, then what are we doing? What's the plan here? Do you know what I mean? A trio of ferries built for use in British Columbia in the late 1990s are for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The Explorer, Discovery, and Voyager, known as the Fast Cats, were built for use by BC Ferries in the late 1990s, but the catamarans were famously over budgeted and failed to meet expectations for speed and efficiency. Only 2 of the ferries were ever used by BC Ferries, the Explorer and Discovery, but they were pulled after just a few years of service and sold in 2003. The ferries are now owned by the government of Egypt. The fact that a country is like, we out of options. What do you want to do? We can't keep them. And then someone in government in the room was like, we put them on Facebook. All right, I think I can move these. Okay, we just use some slightly better pictures. All right, we do what the people on Zillow do. We take the pictures from the corner, so make the whole thing look bigger, and then we put it out. We let the world talk. You know, maybe someone will talk about it on a live stream and spread the word. Maybe that'll help us make our sale. I don't even know what it's going for. I mean, I hope it's just a bid. I hope they've worked it up to 52 cents, you know, people really lowballing them. The fact that a country didn't just go to another country and was like, hey, do you want some ferries? The fact that they were like, look, anybody can get it. Anybody in the world. We just don't want these ferries anymore is so crazy to me. Like, I've had trouble getting rid of a table. I've tried to put a table up on Craigslist, and all I got was weirdos, to be honest with you. I got people in my email. I'm trying to sell a table, and they're like, would you like to buy a timeshare? I'm like, why would I want to buy from you? I'm selling, right? I don't know if Facebook Marketplace is better. Let me check out the chat real quick. Yes, that's also my question, Jefferson. How much is the ferry? Yeah, see, okay. Also, in the chat, because I am curious about this. In the chat, I want you to put up what your bid is for these ferries. How much would you pay? Because these are ferries from the 90s, remember. These aren't ferries that are like brand new. This isn't like a new ferry that you could take somebody on, have a nice day or something. This is going to be rusty. It's gonna be a little nasty. Paint is gonna be chipped, and we know it's lead paint because we didn't know what we were doing in the 90s. This boat might also have asbestos on it, so just take that into consideration when you're putting in your bids. A little asbestos, so some lead, green, blue, and white paint. I'm getting a lot of dollars, 1500s, 10s. I'm getting a 5K here. Okay. Ooh, Frankie with the money, 250K. Rose is saying 1.23 million. Now, I wouldn't, this is your money, spend it how you want. I would not get in the millions on this. I would not. Because personally, for me, the country doesn't want it. If Egypt as a country is like, there's nothing we could do with this. We don't even want to make it like a prisoner ship. Just put people on that have been bad and put them in the middle of the water for a week. They don't even want to do that. So 1.23 million feels a bit steep. I'm getting some zeros. I'm getting some $4 and everything. This is a great question. Dead Inside asks, do they take Bitcoin? I hope so. I hope that you would be able to trade one potentially worthless thing for another, you know? Because nobody talks about it, but Bitcoin is actually back up. And I have a lot of friends who are like, man, I missed it. I missed the dip. I should have bought in. I'm like, nah, you shouldn't have, because you still don't understand it. You don't know what you're doing. You know, I'm getting some 350s. Yes, once again, yeah. Ayana, Egypt is like, nah. If they take EBT, okay, look, this is my thing. Once again, this is your money. I want you to do with it what you would like, okay? If you were offering up for the Facebook Marketplace, if you're offering up for the auction your EBT, this boat is not a good decision. You're not going to be able to flip this boat. The country can't flip it. Do you know what I mean? This shouldn't even be a story, if I'm being honest with you. Facebook Marketplace is like the last. You go to Facebook Marketplace when your friends and family have been exhausted with the thing that you're trying to sell. This is not the place to be selling whole ferries, whole boats. And it is pretty big. They said that when they put it on Facebook Marketplace, they were sort of pitching it as you could make it your own personal yacht. And a part of me is like, if that were true, honestly, if that were true, somebody would have done it already. You know, Egypt has some very rich people. Okay. And then it looks like they've hired a consultant to then manage the Facebook Marketplace auction. Yeah, the consultant feels they are nowhere near the end of their life. He's given me a week or two to market these things, or Egypt will dismantle them and take the motors out and sell the aluminum for scrap. I really don't want Egypt out here. Egypt is treating these boats the way that, like, you know, like when you have a shady friend that's like, oh, I think there's a lot of copper in there. You know what I'm talking about? You know, like when you have a friend who maybe doesn't have it all together, and so he's like, I bet there's a lot of copper in that pipe. We could probably get that copper out of that pipe and make a little money. It's like, yes, we could make 23 cents. You're right. I mean, just selling the aluminum for scrap. Doesn't Egypt as a country need aluminum? Why do you need to sell anything? Just take the boat apart. And then the article ends with the consultant suggested the boats could be used as ferries or converted into private yachts, like I mentioned before. And honestly, if they could be used as ferries, I think Egypt would be using them as ferries. I think that this is one of those things where a used car salesman is looking you dead in your eye and it's like, you could use it as a car, or you could rip it up for scrap, but you could use it as a car. It could be a car. So, moving on to what is probably going to be for some of you my most infuriating story. Now, it's still in line with the doing what you love, but the way that it's being done, I don't think you'll love. But especially after our talks about money, I felt like it was fitting to follow the last story with this one. Comes to us from Fox News. A dog shocks Pennsylvania family by chowing down on $4,000 in cash, shredded all over the room. And this is my thing. The dog doesn't understand money. Dogs don't have a concept of, time, really, currency, commerce, finances. Dog's just out here doing whatever's the most fun in the moment, and ripping up the money must have been pretty fun. They took their eyes off the dog, and the dog went to town. The dog made it rain unusable bills. And when they discovered it, they didn't seem to freak out at all, which I'm glad that this happened to people who are so financially stable. I know if my dog tore up $4,000 in cash, I would at least be hanging my head right now, sweating, wondering what I'm going to do with $4,000 less in my life. Now they did recover a little bit of the money because they did call the bank, and the bank was fairly cool. A Pennsylvania couple's home improvement funds nearly went to the dogs when their pup made a snack out of a large sum of cash they pulled out to pay for the job. It was shredded all over the room, Carrie Law of Pittsburgh told Fox News Digital about the money. There was one area that was pretty decently covered in bills. Some that had little puncture marks from him biting into it, said of their dog, and a lot of it was missing. So we kind of figured that he probably swallowed a good chunk of this money. And like, the dog even looks happy in the picture. Only a dog with no malice in its heart at all would completely destroy a savings account and be like, but we're cool, right? Cecil, a 7-year-old golden doodle, had never done anything like this before, Law said. That's why it's kind of shocking. He's just a goofy dog and such a sweetie. He's 100 pounds and kind of a lap dog. Okay. Honestly, we've gotten to the first thing that I really take issue with this story is that the dog is sweet. We know that. The money was left out for the dog to get. We know that. The dog didn't just, go into a safety deposit box and then tear up the money. There's no vendettas with this dog. But it does exhaust me that all the big dogs, I don't know if y'all have noticed this, all the big dogs think they're little. The amount of adorable and sweet 100+ pound dogs I've had try to sit on my lap and make my legs fall asleep is genuinely crazy. We got to let these dogs know, hey, I love you, but you are big. Like, you're heavy. You're huge. 100 pounds is no joke. He loves leaning on people and getting belly scratches. Yeah, you probably have to scratch his belly just to get up. A lot of people describe him as having like a human inside of him, which is a weird thing to say. He just ate a bunch of money and he's a 100-pound dog. Maybe he could eat a person. We were planning on paying for a landscaping project in cash. I was working at the other end of the house, and all of a sudden I hear my husband, Clayton, yelling that Cecil was eating the money. It just didn't even register because he's done nothing even remotely like this in his life. It was not making sense. Law said Cecil just stood there looking at them and did not seem fazed at all. That's a Disney dog. To cause $4,000 worth of damages to your owners and then just stand there smiling, that's like something you'd find in the Aristocats. We called the vet just to see what they recommend. They said, he's a big dog. He's 100 pounds. So as long as he's acting normally and going to the bathroom normally and eating and stuff, he should be fine. Which, look, I appreciate the work that vets do. I love that I have a vet close by I can take my dog to. But sometimes vets are pretty cavalier. Like, you call them with an emergency. You're like, this never happened before. We know money is dirty. Some of the money must have cocaine on it. And our dog just ate a whole scholarship fund. And then the vet's like, he's pretty big. What are you going to do? So then it turns out they did get a good chunk of the money back because they called the bank. The bank said that if you can put together enough of the bill in serial numbers, we will accept it back, which is, I don't know if I've ever had a bank be that cool with me to be like, yeah, you can tape all the money back up and we'll act like that is a real bill. So that's what they did. They gathered the money up that had been torn up on the floor. And then in the middle of the night, poor Cecil did throw up. And he threw up just money. It was a ton of money that came out of his mouth. So then they tried to clean that, also tape that together. And then they followed him around for about 3 days every time he went to the bathroom. And there'd be some bills in there. Apparently money is pretty sturdy. Money holds pretty well. And so all in all, they recovered $3,500 out of their $4,000 lost. And what a happy ending, Cecil got to do what he loved, tearing up a bunch of money, making it rain. They got most of their money back and have learned to not just leave it on the counter at dog height. We all learned something. Our last story comes from Michigan. A Michigan woman receives a 100-year-old postcard in the mail. And when I initially read the story, I was like, okay, this is probably the worst ad possible for the Postal Service. This looks bad. Do you know what I mean? Like we've all had something we've mailed and it didn't make it there. At least didn't make it there on time. Sometimes it doesn't get there at all. But 100 years is like longer than most businesses stay open. When Brittany Keach checked her mailbox one morning, it was flooded with the usual junk. But atop the pile of miscellaneous flyers and bills sat something that caught her eye, a tattered and time-worn postcard. At first, I didn't think much of it, other than that it's old and interesting, she said. But then I took a closer look. Upon further inspection, she spied a faded green 1-cent George Washington stamp postmarked October 29th, 1920. I was shocked. Who received the 100-year-old piece of mail on September 8th? Keach did. On the front of the postcard is a Halloween illustration, including a black cat, pumpkins, a witch, an owl, and a broomstick, plus a play on words. Which, as in which, would you rather be, a goose or a pumpkin head? Okay, so initially, when I read the story, I was into the whole feel-good part of it, and then I was like, nah, this a ghost. This a ghost. 100 years old. You want to be creepy now? 100-year-old mail. Like, what? Did the mailman not even have some questions? It was very weird. As Keach deciphered the faded cursive on the postcard, also written in cursive. Nobody talks about this anymore, but because they stopped teaching cursive in school, a lot of people don't know how to read cursive anymore. So I still write in cursive sometimes. So sometimes I feel like I'm over here writing in hieroglyphics, because then I'll do anything besides sign my name. Your signature is obviously still quick scratches and everything. But when I'm writing someone a letter that I think is a heartfelt letter that is expressing how much I miss them or I hope they're doing well, and I send that letter and it's in the best cursive that I could write it so that it's pretty and it looks like George Washington did it, when they open it and they're like, what is this? My heart sinks. Like it just bums me out. So the fact that this was in cursive, it's from 1920. This is also what the postcard said, which is this is word. As Keach deciphered the fake cursive on the postcard, which appeared to be addressed to Mrs. Roy McQueen, she realized it was a letter from one family member to another. Dear cousins, the letter started. We are quite well, but mother has awful lame knees. It is awful cold here, right? That's already a little bit of old-timey talk. Awful lame knees is not something that's been said for at least 30 years. The note ends with, don't forget to write us. I'm sure they did, because they never got this. Followed by a question as to whether Roy got his pants fixed. Conversation used to be much easier to make. Like now, sometimes small talk feels impossible. But back in the day, you could just write someone a letter being like, hey, did you get your pants fixed? And then they'd still have to write a letter to answer you, and all that was fine. No one was, man, that was easy living. They searched for quite a while to try to find the family members, and in the end, they still don't know if Roy did get his pants fixed. I want to say thank you for tuning in with me to this live, for watching, for commenting. I, once again, am going to be touring. I'm going to be coming to your cities. Maybe not all of them, but as many as I can. So you drop to me in any socials post you see what city you want me to come to. Feel free to DM me whatever city you want me to come to. And check out my website, joshjohnsoncomedy.com, for these dates. These dates, right? Because I cannot wait to see you. I at most shows, if it's possible, I do a meet and greet so that I can get to know you more, have conversations with you, and thank you personally for coming. We do them at every show that I can. So if I am not doing one, please rest assured it's because for whatever reason we couldn't. But every time that we can, I will. And I just want to say I appreciate you so much, like truly. I hope that you have a wonderful week. And I will be back here